Today we will talk about the basic setup of a wireless access point on MikroTik routers. So, to set up our access point, we need to go to the wireless section and make some settings. I'm accessing our MikroTik router. Overall, for routers 7 and 6, the difference in settings is not significant yet if we use the standard package without using the Wi-Fi Wave 2 package. We go to the wireless section, select the wireless interface. And there is a wireless tab with some basic settings for our access point. The mode responsible for the access point's operation is called AP bridge. And it is set by default in the wireless interface, so we leave it as is. The operation mode and the technologies used. This operating mode is set to compatibility mode by default. In compatibility mode with 802.11b, 802.11g, 802.11n. Modern devices support the N standard in 90% of cases as the oldest and most common. But it's the oldest at the current moment in 2022. If we consider G standards, it is advisable not to use them at all in Wi-Fi compatibility mode. It is more about working in the situation of the weakest, oldest client. Therefore, if you don't have such old clients in use, leave only N or, for example, only the A, C or AN mode. In the case of 5 GHz, forget about mode. Next is channel width. If we talk about using Wi-Fi on the 2.4 GHz frequency, then the channel width in 90% of cases is typically 20 MHz. This is because even in Europe, we have only 13 channels, of which the non-overlapping ones are 1, 6, 11, with a channel width of 5 MHz between them. Therefore, fitting a large number of wide channels in this range is not possible. Essentially, we can only fit 1.5 channels with 40 MHz. If we have points that operate on the same channels, which is often the case because we have neighbors, we will interfere with each other because Wi-Fi works in turns. And if there is another access point on our channel, we will take turns with a large number of access points. Therefore, for 2.4 GHz, it's most appropriate to choose a channel width of 20 MHz. Regarding 5 GHz, I'll talk about it a little later. If we consider the standard corporate setup of MikroTik, it's probably most relevant to choose from the 3 non-overlapping channels we have on 2.4 GHz. These channels are 1, 6, and 11. As for channel 13, which we have in Europe at 2472, it can sometimes be chosen if there are no surrounding access points operating on these channels. To use channel 13 in Europe, we need to select the country we are in, and in this case, let's choose Russia. You'll notice there are several options for Russia, such as Russia 1, Russia 2, Russia 3, Russia 4. We choose the most accessible one, Russia 4, as it represents the most modern standards for wireless channel certification under Wi-Fi. Next, besides the channel, we need to name our access point. In addition to the standard name, we can naturally use a service identifier as a name, or any other name. Next, the security profile parameters are settings that determine which security profile we will use in this access point. What needs to be done for this? You can go to the security profile section to change the default security profile. But probably for your access point, it's advisable to create a separate security profile. Name it not only after the name of your access point but also select WPA2PSK as the authentication type. Why not WPA-PSK? Because WPA-PSK is already an old standard, and for modern use, it's not recommended to choose it. It should be selected only in cases where you have some old devices that do not support modern standards, especially the latest standards like WPA3, which are not yet widely supported by MikroTik equipment. So, choose WPA2PSK. Enter some password, and then we need to essentially adjust the group key update. Some client operating systems may react negatively to the default group key update. In other words, when, for example, we set it to 5 minutes, some client devices may occasionally disconnect. If this doesn't happen to you, of course, you can set the group key update to the default 5 minutes for security. But remember, there can be issues with this. It's advisable to set the group key update to around 40 minutes. Regarding the use of unicast ciphers and group ciphers, use AES-CCM, and do not use TKIP as it is an outdated standard that does not support modern modulations above 54 megabits per second. So, leave everything by default. Everything works fine that way. After creating the security profile, you can select our security profile in the wireless interface. But in addition to configuring the wireless access point, we also need to somehow add our wireless access point to our network because at the moment, we don't have any IP addresses, no DHCP, and so on for normal Wi-Fi functioning. Default configurations probably won't require you to do this. But in my specific configuration, I need to add the Wi-Fi interface. In this case, the LAN 1 interface is added to the bridge interface. After this, my access point is ready for full use. If we are talking about corporate use, most likely, we will either have a separate bridge interface where we add our access point interface, or VLANs will be used, but this configuration is beyond the scope of this video. Thank you for your attention. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Your support means a lot. Stay tuned for more exciting content. Until next time, take care.